about a tangent line? How many times does the tangent line touch a circle? Does anyone remember from Friday? From Thursday? Remember when that line touched the circle, we had to know where the 90 degrees was? How many times was that line touching the circle? Once. So now what we're going to look at is a secant, and the secant is going to touch the circle twice, okay? So these lines here, these are called secant lines because they're touching your circle at two different points. So this is one point, this is another point. This is one point, this is another point. So each line is touching your circle, in this case circle C, at two different points. So there's different formulas. We will be given all the formulas on the test. It's just a matter of knowing which formula to use. All right, so when you have two secant lines meeting in the center, you're going to use this formula. And really what it is, it's the average of the two arcs that are all aligned. So you see how we're looking for this arc right here? Let's say we're looking for 1. Let's pretend 2 isn't there. I'm going to scratch out 2 just so you can visualize it. Don't scratch out 2. Leave your 2 there. All right, so if I'm looking for 1, do you see how this arc X, and how arc Y, how they line up with 1? They're all like within a line, right? All right, so if you're looking for this angle, you got to use the arc that intercepts it as well as the opposite arc. Same thing with 2. So if I was looking for 2 instead and not 1, you would use the same formula. So let's pretend 1 isn't there. You see how 2 has this intercepted arc, and then the opposite is the X on the blue side. All you're going to do is you're going to add these, X plus Y. You'll divide it by 2, and you'll get your angle. So that's what the formula is saying. Formula is saying, regardless if you're looking for 1 or 2, doesn't matter which one you look for. You're going to take your X and your Y, you'll add them, and you'll divide by 2. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Here's X. What is the arc that intercepts X? What is the arc that's right there at the angle where X is? 130. All right, so you're going to look at 130, which is here. What angle or what arc is on the opposite side of the 130? 84, okay? So we're just going to take 130 and 84. We're going to add them and divide by 2. All right, so let's write on the left side because I know you guys have more room there. So all we're going to do is we're going to take 84 and 130. We're going to add them. So let's take 84. We'll add that plus 130. We'll divide it by 2, and that's going to give us X. So what's 84 plus 130? 100 and 100. Oh, 214. Sorry, divide that by 2, and what do we get? 106 degrees. 107? Thank you. 107 degrees. All right, so if you look at the next one, you're going to take the same idea, but it's not the one you're looking for, right? Like if you look at 75 and 143, see how 75 is right here? And 143 is on the opposite side? Are you looking for the angle that's right here in between them? Is that the one we're looking for? No. Nope. So what they're looking for is for X. So what we could do is we can put a Y there. Let's just put a Y there. Let's solve for Y first, all right? So at the top here, I think you'll have some room up here. We're going to do Y first. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the arcs. Let's take 75 and 143. We'll add them and divide, and this is going to get us Y. So what's 75 plus 143? 218. All right, let's divide that by 2, and what's our Y value? 109. All right, so this is going to be 109. So what do you think we're going to do as a second step to figure out X? What do you think we should do as a second step to figure out X? What do you think is true about Y and X, or let's say 109 and X? What do you think is true about this angle and the X next to it? They equal 180. Okay, you see how they're sitting on a line? Reminder, anytime anything sits on a line, it's going to add up to 180. So we're going to take 109 plus X, and we'll set it equal to 180. So we'll subtract 109. What's our X value going to be? 71 degrees. All right. Let's look at the last one. So the last one is like the first one. We're just going to go backward. So what arcs do we have? We have 97. And what's opposite of 97? x, and what's the angle inside? 110. So remember, the rule says that you have to take your arcs, and my arcs are x and 97. And when I add them and divide by 2, I get the angle on the inside. What angle is on the inside? What angle is inside the circle? 110. So this one already gives you what the angle is. We're just trying to find the arc. So this is just working backward from what the initial formula is asking us to do. So if I'm dividing by 2, what would be the next step? What do y'all think? What would be the next step? How would I get rid of, what's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So you multiply both sides by 2, whatever it was you were dividing by. You're undoing the dividing piece. All right, so the 2's are going to cancel out. And you're left with x plus 97 equals. What's 210 times 2? 220. So what would be our last step? Subtract 97. And what would our x value be? 123? All right. And you can always check your answer, right? Because we know that these two arcs, that if I add them and divide by 2 would give me the angle. So you can take your 123, plug it in here. 123 plus 97 divided by 2 should give us 110. All right, so I'm going to give you a moment to try the 3 at the bottom. Y'all may want to write at the very bottom of your notes because you guys have more room down there. So if you can try practice A, B, and C, please, on practice 1. A, B, and C, the 3 that follow. All right, let's look at the first one. Who would like to do the first one? So many volunteers. Davian, you look like you want to do that first one. What did you do on the first one, Davian? 116. What was that? Plus 47? What does that give us? How much? 163. And what did you do with the 163? You got to still divide it by 2. Good. And what does that get us? 81.5. And that should be the measurement of x. Good. All right. Let's look at the second one. So what about the second one? Who wants to do the second one? So many volunteers. Caesar, you look like you want to do the second one. Caesar, what'd you do on the second one?
55 plus 75.
55 plus 75?
Then I got 130 and I divided it by 2.
Then divided it by 2.
And x equals 65.
Good. So is that your answer? So close. But you did good. So the very first thing he did is he got 65, but this isn't going to be x. This is going to be our addition of y. Because remember, when you use your arcs can only find the angle at that intersection on the side where the arcs are. So what should be his second step? 65 plus x equals 180. So as a second step, because I know this is 65 now, these two should add up to 180. So 65 plus x equals 180. Subtract 65, and the x is 115 degrees. Good. All right. How about the last one? Who wants to try the last one? Trying the last one. Audrina. Let's try the last one, Audrina. Good. And what was your first step? Good. And what happens with the 2's on the left side? Good. So you have x plus 154 equals, what's 128 times 2? 256. And then what's our last step? Subtract 154. I understood what you meant. All right. So what was your x value? 102 degrees. And again, you can always plug in your answer here. Add them, divide by 2. You should come out with the answer in the middle. Good. All right, so this is 2 secant lines meeting. So 2 lines that meet in the middle. This is what we're doing. So the next one is going to go back to should be section 10.4. Remember last Wednesday when we were multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2? Right? The inscribed angle, when it looked like this? And you were finding me this arc. And if you went out, you had to do what? Multiply by 2, but if you went in, you had to divide by 2. It's the same thing. This is the exact same thing. All they did was take this piece here and they just slid it down to be at the very edge. All they did was slide it down. So you can use the exact same rules. So you can either divide by 2 or you can multiply by 2. Same thing. So let's look at the first one. The first one says, let's find angle QPR. So here's the angle. I'm going to trace it. Q, P to R. I'm looking for this angle. If I'm looking for the angle, do you think you're going to multiply by 2 or divide by 2? Divide, good. So take 148, divide it by 2. What do we get? 74 degrees. All right, look at the next question, though. They're all not going to be multiplying and dividing. This one is asking for the measurement of the arc from RS to P. RS all the way to P. How would I find the measurement of the arc? We can subtract 148 from 360. So since this arc starts and stops here at R and P, and this one picks up at R and P, together they should equal 360. So what's our difference of 360 and 148? 212 degrees. All right, so they're not all going to be multiplying and dividing by 2. It's going to go back to the idea of all arcs should add up to 360. All right, let's look at the one on the right side. So same thing with the one on the right side. This one's looking for arc D to F. Arc D to F. So let's see. If I'm looking for the measurement of the arc from D to F, how would I find it? Do you think I have to subtract it from 360? Because mind you, 64 is this angle right here. Do you think I'd have to subtract 64 from 360? Not this one, right? So then are you going to multiply by 2 or divide by 2? Which one? Multiply. Yeah, you're going to multiply by 2. Mind you, this is the same thing as seeing this. So if this was 64, you'd have to multiply by 2 to get your arc. So what's 2 times 64? 128 degrees. Now we need that 128 because just like the last one, this one's going to ask for the other arc, DE to F. How would you find the other arc? Subtract. So what am I subtracting from 360? The 64 or the 128? The 128. Good. What would the difference be? 232 degrees. Good. All right. So I'm going to give you a moment to try the two that follow. All right. Let's try the next one. So the next one's looking for the angle. Most of you have the answer here. It's looking for an angle. Remember to look at your symbols. That's an angle. So angle QPS is this angle right here. So who can tell me what we did here with the 250? Divide it by 2. Good. Take 250, divide it by 2, and what do we get? 125 degrees. All right. The next one a lot of us are stuck on as I walked around. We have 108. 108 is right here. This is this little angle right here. That's why it's there. The question is, can I find angle or arc? Sorry, that's a symbol for arc. Arc BCD. They want this arc here. So how do you think that angle is going to help me figure it out? All right, so she says first multiply it by 2. What does that give us? 216. And that's this arc right here. Then she says take that and then subtract it from 360. So what do we get as a difference? 144 degrees. Now, you can do this a different way. If this line was to extend, if this line was to continue, could y'all figure out this other angle on the other side of 108? How? You're right, though. How? We can subtract it from 180. 180, take away 108. What would that get us? 72, right? This would be 72 degrees. And if that's 72, how can you figure out its arc? Multiply that by 2. So if you did it this way, you would just use different numbers, but it's still the same process of multiplying and then subtracting from another number, right? In one case, it was 360. In the other case, it was 180. I don't know why I put 144 in there. That should have been 72. So 72, and then that would have given us 144. So another way you can do it, just in case y'all come across a problem like that, that way you know what the additional steps would be, okay? All right, last formula, right? Monday. I know we all would rather be in bed, but we're here, which is a good thing, right? All right, so regardless of if you have two secants, secant tangent, or two tangents, so regardless if your picture looks like this one, or this one, they all have the same formula. So all it is what you're going to do, and you're looking at it because there's two straight lines going all the way through. What you're going to do is you're going to look at your lines, right? There's a set of lines meeting here, set of lines meeting there. In between these lines, you're going to look at the bigger arc between, bigger arc, you're going to subtract the small one and divide by 2. That's all it is. The big one minus the small one, divide by 2. The big one minus the small one, divide by 2. That's all it is. But it has to be between the two lines. Has to be between the two lines. All right, let's look at the first example. First example, you're going to look for angle R. So what are you going to do? You're going to look at your two lines, and you're going to look at what's in between. What's in between? What's the big arc in between the two lines? 140. So you're going to take 140. You're going to subtract this one, the smaller one in between. What's the small arc in between? 50. And then you'll just divide it by 2. This is going to give you angle R. So what is 140 take away 50? 90. And 90 divided by 2, what does that give us for angle R? 45 degrees. So that angle R, this angle right here, this little angle, is going to be 45 degrees. All right, that's the idea. You got to go in between the two lines. So let's look at the next one. Looking at the next one, the lines are already drawn for you. Let me erase this. The lines are already drawn for you. So if you're looking at my screen, it is the big arc. What color is the big arc? The red one or the blue one? The red one minus the small one, which is what? So this is your big one minus your small one and divided by 2. What's the problem with this one, though? Did I give you the big one? Can you figure out the big one? Yes. How can we figure out the big one? 360 take away 102. Good. What's our difference? 258. So this big arc is 258 degrees. So then for second step, now you apply the problem. So what's our big arc? Our big arc is 258 take away 102 and then divide it by 2. This is going to give us angle L. So what's 258 take away 102? 156. Let's divide that by 2. What is the measurement of angle L? 78 degrees. All right, big arc minus the small one. All right, so let's take the idea to the last one. So on the last one, did I give you the big one on the last one? No, if you read the question is asking for that. That's your X. That's what you're looking for. So just like the other one, we're going to fill in what we have into the formula and then work backward from there. So what is the big arc? What do I have labeled as my big arc? X. What's the small arc in between the two lines? 95. Divided by 2. What angle did that give me? That gave me 56. So if your X is at your arc, that means you must have your angle. Okay? So what's the opposite of dividing by 2? Multiplying. So you're going to multiply X minus 95 divided by 2. Let me move this thing there. And you'll also multiply 56 by 2. So a reminder that these 2's cancel out. X minus 95 equals, what's 56 times 2? 112, good. So what are we going to do with the 95? Add it, right? Because the opposite of subtracting is to add. So we're going to add 95. So what is X equal to? 207 degrees. All right. All right, Mia, it's you. What are we gonna do? Good, 179 minus 71. All of it divided by 2. Good, that should get you angle S. So what was 179 minus 71? 108. Divided by 2, what did that get us? S is 54. Thank you. All right, what about the second one? Second one, who wants to try the second one? Amaya, thanks, Amaya. What'd you do, Amaya? It's okay, look, I'll do it with you. So here are your arcs. What do you have as your big arc? Good, so you're gonna do 224. What is the small arc? 68. Oh, I think 68's the angle, because it's looking for arc x to z. So that's actually your x. So what's our angle? 68, all right. So in this case, right, you plugged in everything you had. I was unsure where that 68 went until I read the question. I wouldn't have given you the answer just directly. So this is where the x went. All right, so then from here, what would I do to get rid of the dividing by 2 piece? Multiply, right? You got to do the opposite. So it's 2 times 68. 136. Then what would we do? Subtract 224. You're going to come out with the negative. It's okay. What do you get? Negative 88. All right, so this is why it's okay. The reason why is because you have to bring down the x, and when you bring down the x, you have to bring down the sign in front of it. Now, usually it's a plus, right? So we usually don't worry about it, but this time it's a minus sign, so that is brought down as a negative x. Well, to get rid of a negative, what do we divide by? -1, right? Or you can just say a negative by a negative will make it a positive. As long as both of them are negative, your answer should be a positive. All right, so if you come out with a negative answer, right, it should be a negative x. Dividing by a -1 is what flips it to be a positive. All right, let's try the last one. So who wants to try the last one? Last one. Oh, the last one's not bad. That one's straightforward. Maya, you want to do that one? All right, what'd you do? 175 minus 57. All of it divided by 2 should give us angle G. So what's 175 minus 57? How much is it? 118. 118. So angle G is 59. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to do one last one together. We do it together. I'm not going to have you do the last one by itself. This one is slightly tricky because you have to remember one property from Algebra 1, okay? So let's just plug in what we have. What's my big arc? 13x minus 6. Then you're going to minus your smaller arc. What's our smaller arc? 5x plus 14. And then all of it divided by 2 should give me 54. There's one small thing you want to do. Now, usually, if you kind of notice, I never really put the parentheses because we're usually adding, right? So in this case, we're subtracting. I purposely put the minus sign in blue for a reason on the screen. What do you think has to happen with the minus sign? Put it to the what? Put it to the right. You're going to have to, what's it called when I have to move this over into each one? Distribute. You have to distribute the negative. So the 13x minus 6 is going to stay as is. What is a negative by a positive? A negative, so that would be negative 5x. And again, what's a negative by the other positive? Another negative. This is only going to happen when you have this expression or if you have an x there like we did on the last one, right? We had to bring down that negative x. In most of the cases, you're not going to be doing this, but this might be a bonus on the test, so I do want to show you how to do it, right? All right, so then from here, you just combine like terms. What is 13x? Take away 5x. 8x, good. What is negative 6 minus 4? negative 10. Then you divide by 2, and then from here, it's what we were doing earlier. So how do I get rid of the dividing by 2 piece? Multiply by 2. The 2's cancel out. You're left with 8x minus 10 equals 108. All right. From here, what would the next step be? Add the 10. So 8x equals 118. We'll divide by 8. And what's our x value? 14.75.
Where'd you get the 10 from?
Negative 6 minus 4.
It's 14.
Oh, is it 14?
Yeah.
Thanks. So, all right, so what's negative 6 minus 14? Negative 20. That's going to change it. Yeah, I left out the 1. All right, let's see. So that is 20. So that's 20. So then we'll add a 20. So that'll be 128. So what's 128 divided by 8? 16? 16.